Hello bag builders, it's Diane from Spencer Ogg Sewing Patterns, bobbing on because I thought it was high time I tried out sewing with clear vinyl. Now I have been meaning to buy some clear vinyl for absolutely ages, and I've never got around to it because I thought I probably won't have too many uses for it. And then about 2 weeks ago a friend of mine sent me a couple of small pieces just in 2 different thicknesses to try out. So I had to go on a few seams just to try out what it was like, and wow, I think it's pretty good stuff. I found the swatches so much easier to sew with and so much stronger than I expected that I dived in and I purchased a range of a few different weights so we could try them out. So here is today's experiment. My first time sewing clear vinyl, my tips for sewing with it, and the different thicknesses that are available. So this is super clear PVC sheeting, and PVC is short for polyvinyl chloride if you want the full name. It's often used for automobile and marine applications. It comes in a huge variety of thicknesses. The ones most particular for bag making are 0.15mm, 0.25mm, 0.35mm, 0.5mm and 0.75mm, and please don't ask me to convert that to squillionths of inches because I wouldn't know where to start. You can find thicker versions too for other purposes. I'm holding each to the camera and giving it a bend so you can see what each one is like as I'm chatting. This particular vinyl is fire resistant, UV resistant and cold crack resistant. I purchased the 0.25, 0.35, 0.5 and 0.75mm thicknesses to try them out. It's 135 centimetres wide and it's pretty economical, I must say, £6 to £8 a metre depending on the thickness, and I will add a link in the text below for where I purchased mine, though there is quite a few places you can get it from. So this is the very first time I've tried clear vinyl, so I'm going to make the same item twice and learn on the job. I'll speed it up, don't worry, I don't want to keep you hanging around all day. The first showing you all the things I did wrong or had to overcome, and the second with all my amendments. And then at the end I'll summarise my general list of tips that I've learned so far. So the first bag I made was in the thinner clear vinyl, 0.25mm thickness. This is the Pixie pattern shrunk down to 70%, but I did leave the width of the arms and legs as wide as the original to give me a bit more room inside, and I'm going to make it of course without any innards or straps. I found it really easy to cut with a rotary cutter. I did try pressing the vinyl to get the creases out first with a cool iron, and I even used a pressing cloth, but it did not go well. The vinyl just became soft and wrinkled, so I'll probably give that a miss in the future. Just flatten it out and shove it under a rug for a few days instead. I'm using a lighter colour of thread here so it doesn't stand out much. Pink is what I've got on my machine. You can see it a little bit, but probably white or cream might be a bit better so it just kind of blends in. I tried a few different stitch lengths, all seemed to work fine, and I settled on a 3. I'd just say avoid too small a stitch as you're perforating the fabric and creating a tear line as such. So in general, in terms of stitch length on any vinyls, longer is stronger. I'm using a microtex needle in the machine to keep the stitch holes as small as possible. The clear vinyl is really flexible, and personally I found it dead easy to sew. But I've got a few tips coming up as it depends on your actual machine. So let's finish making up this first one and see where we can make some improvements. I'll talk about different feet for vinyl sewing during the next sample too. However, if I only have one word of warning with clear vinyl, it is turning through. It is not the easiest thing to turn through, particularly the corners. Okay, so on to sample 2. Using the things I've already learned from a first attempt, I'm going to make a few improvements as we go. Using the same Pixie pattern, I'm using a thicker clear vinyl this time, 0.5mm. I found the first one didn't really have as much body as I'd like. It was a bit too squishy. This time I'm going to top stitch my zip seams, as the vinyl doesn't crease, it doesn't hold a fold, and I really want it to hold down better. So I'm going to use an extra long zip tail on here to give me access to be able to top stitch it. Now this time I'm also going to add zipper pull tabs, as the vinyl is really sticky and it really helped me with opening and closing the bag. So I've just cut 2 semicircles out of the clear vinyl. You could add a strap at this stage if you wanted to add a strap too. Webbing would probably be the easiest, but you could double up the vinyl if you preferred. I'm going to finish the ends of my zipper with a bit of zigzag stitching too at this point, because obviously you can see the raw ends of everything inside. Alternatively, you could bind the end of the zip or bind the seam that the zip's on. I'm going to really pay attention to trimming my thread ends here as well. I'm not going to use the auto thread cutter in the machine because that's going to create nests and it's going to leave long ends. Obviously, because you can see everything inside, we don't want any thread nests, we don't want any loose threads. I want to keep it really clean and tidy. So again, it's a bit tough to turn through. It's a lot tougher than I'm used to with fabric, and obviously the thicker the vinyl, the tougher it is to turn. I would not want to make anything too small with this thicker stuff. The bigger it is, the easier it's going to be to turn. Chuffing out, you really have to work to push these corners out. So that's my second attempt finished. I definitely prefer this thicker vinyl. It gives a much better finish in this size of bag. So this one was the 0.5mm. And this one is the 0.25mm, so you can see the difference. It is a much better structure. So let's have a quick summary of the things I've already learned today on using clear vinyl for the first time. So my summary for choosing and constructing a clear vinyl project. I've still got a lot to learn, but these are my findings so far. So initially choose a 3D project, not a 2D project, or you'll lose the benefits of the clear vinyl as it'll all stick together. And what I mean by that is 3D, obviously it's got sides, it's got a gusset maybe, you can see what's inside, it's got shape inside. If you make a 2D project, you're going to lose that feature and the look, and everything's going to stick together. It's not going to work as well. So stick to projects where they're going to be a 3D shape to give best results. Choose the vinyl thickness which is suitable for the project you're working on. So for a larger bag, use a thicker vinyl which will stand unaided. For clear panels, ID windows or lightweight smaller pouches, choose a thinner vinyl, something from this end. A thicker vinyl on a small project will be too difficult to turn through, and a thinner vinyl on a larger item won't give you the body you want. Don't press your vinyl. Mine was not a good look. Use a rotary cutter to get a nice clean edge. Don't use your best rotary cutter though, or your best scissors, as it dulls the blade. There's no need for lining, of course, and no need to neaten any edges. We'll just leave the seam allowances raw. There's no chance of fraying with this stuff. But you could add a coloured binding to jazz it up inside if you wanted to. Don't use pins as they'll leave holes, and even use clips sparingly as they can mark the vinyl. I particularly noticed that on the thicker ones. So I really was expecting it to be sticky and awkward to work with, but I had no problem sewing with the clear vinyl using a walking foot. I had my zipper foot on at some stages, and that was much stickier and it didn't hold as well. I had to help pull it through a little bit, though it still sewed okay, but it will depend on your own machine, so have a play around and find out what works for you. If you don't have a walking foot, try a non-stick foot, a Teflon foot or a roller foot. You can even use lube, tissue paper or talc to aid the fabric through your feed dogs. Additionally, you can also slow the speed of your machine down. It will allow more time for the feed dogs to take hold of the vinyl. Another thing to try is to lower presser foot pressure. Use a light coloured thread to blend in, unless you want to see the stitches inside, of course. I actually think a lighter colour, such as a very light pink or blue, will disappear better than a bright white. I tried both and I did feel that the very light hues were better than the bright white. Use a polyester thread for strength and keep to a regular weight thread rather than a top stitch or heavyweight thread to avoid extra friction. Use a longer stitch length, longer is stronger. Use a slim, sharp needle such as a Microtex needle. The vinyl is very flexible and seems pretty strong when sewn. The stitches don't rip out and it doesn't feel like I'm causing a tear line with my stitches. The fabric really is holding its own. Top stitch where necessary to hold down a fold. The vinyl does not hold the crease itself, so if you want a crease to be in place, you need to stitch it down. Finish any zip ends neatly and trim thread ends carefully because you see everything. And I guess that is the whole point, isn't it? Turning through is challenging and on some projects no doubt a bit strenuous because it sticks together so much. I'm thinking that adding a little talc to the flat fabric before makeup might help with that bit, and I will try it on my next project and let you know. Also, you could try leaving the finished item before turning through on a warm windowsill for a while, or warming it slightly with a hairdryer to make it a little more supple before attempting turning it through. But remember, it isn't always necessary to turn it through. You can have your seams on the outside with this fabric too. I've just tried this little case on a scrap of the thinner 0.35mm thickness and it looks absolutely fine. I added little strengthening dots behind my snaps and I'll find out how the strength holds up, but no problem so far. I do really love these clear finished bags now. If you're interested in the sewing pattern for the Pixie, which I used here, I'll add a link in the text below the video if you just scroll down to the right and underneath. The sewing pattern is for a fully lined crossbody bag. Here I've just used the outer pattern piece only and I've printed it slightly smaller, obviously no lining, no innards. The thicker vinyls really support themselves in a large shape, so I've got lots of ideas going through my head for this stuff right now. It would of course also be great for table protectors and mats, and we could decorate those too. Anyway, I'm a convert and I'm thinking clear bags are really handy. Great when you have to disclose items you're carrying, of course, such as for a stadium bag or for carrying liquids at an airport, but of course for so many other things too. I will do a tutorial for a correct size airport liquids bag next because I could really do with one for my travels rather than the crummy plastic bag we all carry. So let me know if you've used clear vinyl before. What was your experience? Did it stitch up easily? Did you struggle to turn it through? Please share all your tips for working with clear vinyl in the comments below the video or on my Facebook group. I hope you enjoyed finding out a bit more about working with clear vinyl along with me. If you did, please click like and subscribe to the channel for more sewing fun.